All right, so last day of 2021. I'm very excited to do this interview with a legend in the making, Paul Joseph. We've got again the legendary George Orwell in the audience here. I'm very nervous, um, and so Paul. One of the most remarkable things is that he'd been able to sort of hop in. He was one of our early students in terms of getting involved. So the community wasn't as developed as it is now. He was leaning on me early on, asking questions and such. But after that, like pretty quickly, and I would say sooner than most students, he was just off on his own, doing his thing and taking his own path. And he'd pop up every couple of weeks and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this." Oh my goodness! And so Paul's always had a bunch of surprises up his sleeve, and saying in the most recent email, he's someone that seemed to learn the rules so that he can figure out which ones he could break.
Yeah.
So, he's taken a lot of its own approaches, which I really wanted. So I think you can find inspiration from those that are able to be like Paul and, not reinvent the wheel, but maybe modify it a little bit, versus sticking to this rigid situation, doing exactly what I did with Vicky Virtual and being worried about whether you can differentiate yourself. And the other remarkable thing about Paul, and this is becoming a long intro, but it's that he's been able to grow his business while to this day keeping a full-time job. I know you don't intend on keeping it forever, but there's a lot of right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of you that are, keeping jobs or wanting to build this, considering building this while having other obligations, whether it's a full-time job or whatever. So, Paul, thanks a lot for being here, man. Another Canadian, and welcome.
Thank you.
So, Paul, I'm you're someone again that always surprises me. So, you're one of in terms of students that are successful, I actually know less about you than a lot of the other ones. And so I'm just going to have a conversation with you. I really don't have any prepared questions. So I figure it will be a bit more fluid that way.
Yeah.
But the first question that I sort of ask everybody is, what was your sort of a little bit of backstory or background? What led you to basically figuring out you wanted to start a call center?
It was a pivot point, actually. We were supposed to launch a cleaning business. When I say we, it was a business partner and I. We go back since university days. We were supposed to launch a cleaning business nationally in Canada, and COVID hit. So this was the beginning of 2019. We were supposed to launch March of 2019. No, sorry, March of 2020. And then right when we were about to launch, everybody started shutting down, right? And so that led us to see, okay, where are we going to go with this? Because a lot of the homeowners, they did not want any cleaners coming over, and a lot of the cleaning companies did not want to go provide any services just because of the protocols. So having said that, it was a turning point in a way where, okay, what are we going to do? Because we can't launch it now, because literally we were like 90% complete. Like the website was done, everything was done. We were just like, we had cleaners hired.
What was the name of that company?
That one, well, we still have it. I don't want to say it out yet because I may just launch it, but I'll tell you. No, I'm kidding. It was called Tidy Mist.
Oh, okay.
Tidy Mist, right? We got our vanity phone numbers and everything, right? So everything was ready to launch, and we kind of pulled the plug on it. And that's when, surprisingly, for some odd reason, through Rohan's connection, you came about, in the sense that I was listening to the Side Hustle podcast.
Okay.
Mind you, I was listening to the podcast while I was working. I was at work listening to your podcast. I'm like, all right, I gotta find this guy. And then when I was listening to the podcast, I don't know if I'll tell you my background with work. I work in oil fields up in northern Alberta. So I'm in open pit mining. So while I was listening to the podcast, I couldn't hear the company you said. Like I couldn't hear, call center cash. I'm like, okay, what the heck was that company? So I was trying to Google it. Then your Reddit popped up, right? Okay, I'm like, okay, this has to be it. So I reached out to you prior to purchasing the course, and we had our conversation and whatnot. And that's really how we pivoted into wanting to open up a call center space, virtual call center space, just because three things were important to me. One is scalability, one is location independence, and the other one is sustainability, right? So I wouldn't jump into a business if three things weren't apparent. I don't want to own a mom and pop shop. I don't want to own a brick and mortar. Like it has to be virtual. So when this popped up, it was you want to say a no-brainer, but at the same time, it's like, okay, there are so many players in the game. There are big hitters in the game. What do you want? How are we going to approach this? So I spoke to my business partner, and she was like, how do you want to do this? And my thing was, well, everybody's working from home. Somebody's going to need their phones answered. And if we look at the propositions, is you're literally George Orwell is in Edmonton too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
who knew?
What are the chances of these Canadians? Hey, coming back to it, it's like the proposition is there, and now we just have to convince people to jump on and ride the wave. And that's awesome. Really how we pivoted into virtual call center space.
Awesome. And I like that you brought up three sort of characteristics or factors that you're looking for. What you said, scalability, sustainability, what was the other one?
Location independence.
Location independent, yeah. Right. That was something I wanted. Hey, Nigeria, I love it. Different continent. Welcome, man. I'm 43% Nigerian, and I like to state that whenever someone says they're from Nigeria. So welcome. But yeah, so when I was considering a company, right, I had a cleaning business. So you were just a few years behind me on that same path, really. And it was Rohan that introduced me to that concept of having a cleaning business. And he was my mentor in that space, right?
Right.
And then the premise of a call center is just beautiful because, again, you have this understanding that there's a lot of businesses that need their phones answered, and not a lot of them that are starting off either can or want to invest in a full-time in-house person just to answer the phone. So the location independent thing, the sustainability and the scalability, this is far less location dependent than even cleaning, really.
Right.
So that's awesome. So, okay, so we had a conversation. I remember that. I remember being excited about you. And then you just started on the process. How did the initial process go for you? How was the journey when you started?
It was a new space, right? Like I was in the B2B space was new to me. I've had businesses in the past, like, drop shipping, Amazon FBA and all of that. Oh. The B2C space I knew fairly well. It's just the B2B was new to me. So it was an uncharted territory for myself to be able to tap into that market, to be able to project myself as a leader in the space. That's where I initially struggled to be able to convince these companies that I knew what I was talking about. Because, as a B2B provider, B2B service provider, you have to position yourself with a different mindset than you would with a B2C, right? The nurturing, the consistent communication, to be able to be available, 24/7, so to speak, right? 24/7, be available for your clients' needs. So it was a space where I had to grow into, so to speak, right? Which was the initial struggle. And the learning curve wasn't as bad because I'm more of a technical savvy guy. I pretty much handle the technical aspects of the business, and then Sabrina's my business partner, guys. So she handles the day-to-day operations and the people. So she does the day, like hiring and scheduling and all of that, and I do the marketing technical, the softwares and everything else.
Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome. So the initial struggle was, figuring out how best to present yourself, and then, representing that you have some type of authority and the competency to handle the account. And that makes sense. You'll find a lot of people, you go through the program and you get a understanding. And some people go through the program 3-4 times so they really start to take it in. But most people, they'll just start to participate in the group. They'll hit me up all the time. And then you just start filling in all those tiny little gaps. And what we found is that when you're prospecting, it might seem like you're having the same conversations over and over again. But the fact is, the more you know about the business, the better your conversations go to prospect, right? They'll bring up things, and you'll have a bit more in-depth responses. You'll be able to go off on tangent that, the conversations flow better when you know more. So that's awesome. So, and I was going to ask, so the breakdown between you and your partner is you handle sort of like the high level software operations and structure of the company, and she handles like the sort of the micro stuff. So you're the macro, she's the micro.
Right. That's correct. So the only reason we did it like that is because when I'm in the field, when I say field, like in the mine, I cannot have telephone communication, right? I cannot have my phone on me just because that's, rules of the mine. So that was initial, barrier that we had to overcome. So it's like, okay, so what is it that I know I can't be on the phone 24/7? What can we do to mitigate that? And so the best route at that point was to put her as a day-to-day operations, in terms of dealing with the agents. And then I take on, business dev, marketing, process development, and all of that.
And Sabrina also has a job.
Right. Sabrina.
So Sabrina. Sorry, Sabrina is on the call.
So Sabrina, she also has a full-time job as well.
Yeah. And I want to mention that because, I didn't want you guys to think, oh, well, he has a job, but maybe a partner doesn't. So they both have full-time jobs. Okay. And, some of you guys, I think what you're doing is a smart thing. You already decided you're going to have a partner with the cleaning business. Mm-hmm. And I did the same thing, right? Even our roles were similar. I knew that my bandwidth would be limited in certain ways because of whatever, but I also knew that I wanted this business to happen. And so the very first thing I did when I decided I was going to do a call center was look for a partner. So I found someone that could fill the gaps. And that's how we got going, right? I eventually bought him out, but that's how we got going. So don't be against having a partner if that's what it takes to make this work. And so tell me a bit about, I guess your first client, how did that happen? What was it like?
So we kind of shot ourselves in the foot by naming the company 24H. but our long-term projection was to be a 24/7 company. So, positioning ourselves as a 24, naming the company 24H, it didn't help our initial, launch, just because our first client that we received, they only wanted after hours and weekend support. So like, all right, now we're like, now it's a struggle because it's okay. Now we're trying to build our daytime pipeline, but we have a client that we have to service for after hours and weekends. Mm-hmm. So, but we took them on. We'll touch base on how that client is today later, but mm-hmm. So that was our initial acquisition, was a after hours client.
Okay. And, tell me about how you made that work, right? Because there's some people that would have said, you know what, we're technically 24/7, but we're not quite there yet.
Right. So we had to create, like, I know a few students that Don has, they always reach out to me as to how to go 24/7. And I always let them know that in order for you to go 24/7, you have to treat the business as a two-part business. You cannot look at it as a single business. Whereas you have to create a pipeline for your daytime 9 to 5, regular 9 to 5, 9 to 9, whatever you choose, and then you have to create a pipeline for your after hours and weekend clients. So you have to treat it as your marketing has to be two separate entities. You have to, the way you approach and have conversations with your clients has to be different. Just because if you are going 24 hours, it's your initial spend in terms of to cover, your wages will be substantially higher. All right. So what we did was we didn't have any daytime clients, so we only had one agent in the morning, which was 9 to 9. We started off with scheduling agents 12-hour shifts, because it wasn't busy, so they're just chilling, right? So they were okay with it. And then the afternoon for this particular client, we had 4 agents.
Wow.
That were dedicated, right? Because their call volume was substantially high.
So your first client was high enough call volume to sort of justify having. Okay. Well,
that was just evenings and weekends, right? So we were only doing 4 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So 5 hours, right? Okay. So Monday to Friday for 5 hours, and then all day Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
So having 4 agents for 5 hours, they were okay with it.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming you hired these people and you just hired them exactly for the hours you needed them to minimize the payroll.
Yeah, most definitely. Except for that, that initial daytime agent that was, she might have had maybe 1 or 2 calls a day. That was just, and most of them were solicitation calls, but we were able to manage.
Okay. And so, after you got that first client, you get a sense of what it's like to operate the company, right? How did you guys go about creating sort of a more consistent pipeline to drive more clients in?
Well, to tell you the truth, initially we just didn't. We didn't. So I'll tell you, like, the route I took was completely different from what all of your other students took, right? One of the reasons was I came into this mindset with a 10 to 15 year projection as a business, right? I know some of the other students I talked to, they were talking about, I want to build it big enough within a year to 3 years. I want to sell it. I want to get out of it in 5 years. I don't want to run a call center space, till I'm old and gray, right? I didn't come in with that mindset. I came in with a mindset of, creating a business from 10 to 15 years and see where it goes. And then if it's sustainable enough to be able to grow it so that I can step out of it and have like a board of directors handle the business on a day-to-day operations, right? So that was my mindset. So initially, when we came on board, we didn't look at acquisition. We looked at creating processes, right? So we had this client. So we were like, all right, so let's see how we could create processes around this one client. And we weren't losing money in the initial stages because we had the client come in, right? So it was like, all right, let's create processes. Let's create let's identify what our pinch points are. Let's identify where we're bottlenecking, and let's iron that out. So what's the point in us taking on more clients where we're still learning? So instead of doing that and bringing on these clients and increase our churn rate, and to tell you the truth, we have 0 churn. Just because of that, we have 0 churn from the time we churn. We haven't lost 1 client.
Oh, see, right? I'm telling you, Paul, you keep hitting me with these surprises.
Yeah. So, and that's only because we created these processes right off the hop, right? So you have to think about, you have to put yourself in a position as in the business owner's perspective, right? So I'm going to trust my business into a third party service provider and expect everything to go okay. Well, how are these guys, right? So you guys have to, like, whoever's coming on board, like, whoever's on this call listening or whoever does listen, you guys have to create processes so that when a potential client looked at it, they'd be like, all right, you know what, these guys are credible enough for me to pass on my business to them and to be able to trust them. Right. So that trust is a massive
advantage
that you will have with these clients. And one thing I always tell our agents, and even, you know, it's my daily speak, is it's easy to build credibility, right? Like you already have credibility, but once you lose it, you're not going to get it back.
Right.
Right. So don't ever, you know, always, if you're going to provide a service and you tell a client that this is what you're capable of doing, make sure you could do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know at the initial stages it's hard because you want to bring on clients, but at the same time, when you bring them on, create processes around that client. Don't go get another client until you have mastered the process of handling that one client.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Right. So to touch base on you, what you asked for in terms of marketing. So we had initially started with cold emailing, and cold calling I wasn't a big fan of, right? Just because we're in Canada, it's a different rule. So we started with cold emailing, and that's how we got that first client, was through cold emailing. Okay. Right. So after we received it, we seized everything. We stopped cold emailing, we stopped cold calling. So then we created processes around that client. And then after that, Sabrina brought on a client that was through her network. And then it was an accounting firm. So we created processes around accounting firms. Right. So now we needed to understand what accounting firms do. So even though we were in the early stages, it was the perfect opportunity for us to understand, okay, what does accounting firms do? These are the processes that accounting firms do, and these are the processes that we need to create so that we could cater to bigger and bigger accounting firms, you know, when we do get bigger, right? So that was our mindset in terms of creating such systems. Mm-hmm. It's only because I was like, both of us had full-time jobs, so we couldn't like invest time into it when we were at work, right? Mm-hmm. We couldn't, you know, we can't jump in and be like, you know, put out fires when there's something going on or whatever, when we were both at work. So creating those systems was very important for us. So now we have systems. Now agents just need to follow these systems, right? So that's how we positioned ourselves right from the jump.
That's awesome. And, you know, it's really good forward thinking. I think systems are always important. And I mean, you're right. The earlier you can create those systems and sort of solidify them and optimize them for the specific service you are providing, the better. But the thing that I really like the most about what you're saying is that you jumped into this with a truly long-term mindset and expectation. You know, I think that a lot of the stuff that's put out there has honestly been sort of toxic in terms of just trying to create overnight businesses, overnight success, overnight money. And the ironic thing is that, you know, a lot of the companies that achieve success the most quickly are the ones that create processes and build their business with the foundation of being a business that can survive and thrive for the next 10, 15 years. When I started Vicky Virtual, I really didn't think much at all. I was just sort of like, you know, I just want to figure out a way to make this thing work because I don't know anything. I didn't have any mentorship or anything. But I also knew that this thing had the potential to go to the stratosphere. Mm-hmm. And I literally, in the entire time I had the company, I never thought about selling it. Even when I sold it, it was because I got an unsolicited offer and it was beyond what I thought it might have been worth. And I was like, you know what? But, you know, 2 weeks before that offer came in, I was literally in my head, I wonder what size this company is going to be when I hand it down to my kids.
Right.
Because, you know, there's not a lot of companies that, like, you know, not to give crap on myself, but like I'm not going to hand down call center craft, the course, to a kid. Any of my offerings. It's not going to happen. There's only certain types of businesses that have that staying power that makes sense to keep around for a few decades, and where the industry is pretty predictable. And I think this is one of them. So I'm glad you had that approach. You know, and I'd like to reiterate again, those that try to run the fastest usually fall the hardest. So you want to focus on structuring your business in the right way. I know another thing that you did was you guys focused on content marketing, right?
Right. So a couple of things that we did right off the hop is, because I had a long-term projection, I wasn't trying to go for the quick kill, right? So we were consistent with content marketing. And at the time, I was only able to afford, whatever amount. And then we put that in SEO, right? I think it was like $200 a month.
Okay.
Right. So we hired an agency out of India. And we like, okay, this is what we could afford. This is what it is, start doing our SEO. So they started doing SEO from literally, when do we launch? November 2020. Anyways, yeah, around there, October, November 2020. From that point onwards, it's just been straight SEO every month, without fail, and then content marketing. Just because those are the long-term reaping that we were going for, right? So it's, SEO takes forever, especially with major corporations that's been doing SEO forever, right? So if we're going to be sustainable, like, let's start with something that could stick out. SEO, Sabine, SEO.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in the Q&A after, but yeah, basically making sure that you position your company or website in a way that it ranks higher on search engine. But yeah, that's great. The majority of clients Vicky Virtual has ever gotten were inbound. And you mentioned something to me a few weeks ago that made me go crazy yet again. That all of your, pretty much all of your leads now are inbound.
Inbound. So all of the bigger clients that we have are all inbound.
Awesome.
And the ones that, I'll tell you something, we haven't done cold outreach, I want to say from January 2020 till.
You mean 2021?
Yeah, sorry, January 2021 until maybe last month. Yeah, so we haven't run any ads. We haven't done any cold emailing. We haven't done any cold calling up until last month. We only started with Facebook ads last month, and then soon we're going to be going with PPC.
So what you're saying is you launched October, November. You did cold outreach for those
to get
going for 2 to 3 months, and then for the next 10 months,
we didn't do anything.
You didn't do it.
We didn't do anything.
That's fantastic, and it was. I mean, were you continuing to do the content marketing though?
Yeah. So the content marketing and SEO never stopped.
Okay.
Right. So we did, we did our blogs, we did our SEO, that never stopped. And I'm only talking about paid ads, cold emailing and cold calling. We never touched it, just because we were getting bigger clients through our inbound leads that, like I said, we were going back to creating processes for these particular clients, right? Because we were getting clients from different sectors. So we couldn't apply the same type of, metrics or the same type of implementation that we would with our accounting firm that we had initially, so then we had clients that are coming in from the home services space, right? So for them, it's all different. Hold on a second. I think somebody's knocking on the door.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, I like that you've gotten that granular and specific with it. I'm just going to talk for a bit while you deal with that. It's nice to get granular and specific about the different industries that you are working for and serving. In my experience, we haven't had to get too granular, but there are nuances and certain characteristics of different companies within the same industry that you are more prepared for and better able to provide service for when you know them. And so, the most obvious or, upfront examples of that are the typical categories of calls that come in, given the type of company. So for attorneys, you don't book appointments, you schedule consultation. For cleaning company, you never schedule a consultation. You give out a quote or an estimate, or you book an appointment. And it goes from simple things like that down to more specific things like what are the typical objections within a certain industry? What are the typical sort of green light things that your agent can say that will enable them to close the deal a bit more often? So, I like that you've done that. Now, when you say you guys have created practices and systems, and obviously you can be as detailed as you want, but on a high level, how specific did you get?
In terms of with clients, you mean?
Yeah, clients, the company in general, I guess, as
Okay.
from a philosophically, how detailed do you expect to get when you're building the process?
So we try to create processes where we can be hands-on with that client within a month to 3 months.
Okay.
Hands off, I mean, right? So after that 3-month time frame, we want to be, as myself and Sabrina, we want to be able to not even look at it, to where if we have to add on another agent might be able to train them, so to speak, and then we'll just do quality control kind of deal, right? One of the reasons why we do it that way is because most of our clients that we get right now, they want us to use third-party software. So, right. So that's another, for us, that's the different approach that we also incorporated. And I remember talking to you about this, is not a lot of call centers do this, is to learn a third-party software that the actual client is using. So if the call volume is substantial enough, we will learn the software, and then we teach it to our agents. And then our agents just, log in into their backend processes and backend softwares, and then do whatever that needs to be done, booking appointments or booking whatever it is. When I say software, I'm not talking about like a Calendly, like a booking appointment setting software, right? I'm talking about an actual physical software where you have to learn it, spend time and learn it, and then
Yeah, and let me reiterate that just a little bit. So the key thing Paul said is that one, his company has a willingness to work with third-party software, meaning not software that you would be utilizing day to day, if not for that particular client. But in order for you to do that, it needs to be worth it. The way that we did it when we first started was we were like, oh, we'll just do it. But most of our clients were, $200 to $500 a month, which meant we had a bunch of smaller sized clients. And pretty quickly, like literally in the first 10 months, we were on 25 different softwares. And so when you have individual agents that have to learn that many pieces of software over the course of the day, their brain can't take it. They're also trying to take calls and be smooth, and it's just too draining. And that's how you start to get agent turnover and lower agent performance and efficiency. But when the volume of a particular client is large enough, then you can have less agents that are dealing directly with that account. And so say you have maybe 2 to 3 larger clients, or maybe just as few as one, an agent can learn 3 different pieces of software on top of what they're dealing with without being too bogged down or drained. So are you willing to say what type of threshold or cutoff point you might have for whether you're willing?
In terms of minutes?
Yeah.
So our minute threshold is 1,000 minutes. So if you're not doing 1,000 minutes, then we won't entertain a third-party software. And Sabine just asked a question, I think, regarding what it is, third-party software. It's one of our clients is a home inspection company, and they use a software called Inspection Support Network, and it's a dedicated software for home inspection companies. So what it is, it's a coding software for home inspection. So you have to learn the actual coding software for that client, and whatever numbers, the metrics that he uses, and then to be able to train that to our agents from there.
Yeah. And, we'll get we'll get to the rest of the questions after I finish questioning him. So Sabine, I promise we'll answer everything. But yeah, the big thing is that you're sort of like in the in-between, right? So in this space, you've got a small client that you're just answering the phone and you're doing what your initial function was, the initial set of tasks you want to do for really any client. And small clients fall in that bucket. And then you've got the larger volume client, which for you, the threshold to that is 1,000 minutes a month. And so in that case, you don't necessarily have a contract, and you're certainly not bidding out for like a contract, but you're sort of providing a higher level of more custom tailored or white glove approach that a contracted client might require. But it's still worth it because, you know, it's easier to dedicate those resources because there's more revenue comes in to support that. And now on the third end, you got giant client that, you know, you might require a contract for, which I tend to sort of stay away from. And frankly, we did with our company because at a certain size, it's pretty easy to be very beholden to a certain client. So that's a little scary for me. But again, the main thing is you've kept yourself open for any scenario, and then you've devised ways to make it still work for your company overall while being able to serve these clients. So I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. Another reason why we went that approach is now that we learned the software, now we could approach other companies that are using the software. Right. So that's where a lot of other call centers or somebody in the space, they don't look at it that way. And now we have, you know, booking software or any other booking softwares, any other software that you're learning. Now you have, you know, thousands of other companies that are using the same software. So what's stopping you from reaching out to those companies, right? And be like, okay, we already have a client using the software. Hey, let us give you a demo that we know the software, and let's see where we can go with this. Right.
I love that.
So, right. Another thing is once you learn it, now you can reach out to the software company themselves. Be like, okay, can we partner up with you guys? Well, we're already using our software. So if you have a client, well, suggest us. Right. You know, let's partner up. Let's see if we could create a call center space for you guys, for your clients, so that you have a all-in-one support service. Right. So that's another way of thinking it, you know, thought process.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant approach. It's a way for, you know, you to have powerful advocates for your company without doing any additional work. You just, you know, forge that relationship with them. You show that you're doing a good job, and, you know, you're able to grow in ways that have less and less to do with you and more with what you created foundationally in terms of relationship with different software vendors as well as SEO and content marketing. So I absolutely freaking love it. And, you know, it's just great stuff. So as of today, right, what is a typical day for you in terms of how the business is functioning?
Doing what I'm doing right now.
So you just
I literally, like, my position is do Zoom calls throughout the day.
Okay.
Right, like Zoom calls, and then, you know, meet vendors, meet clients, all on Zoom. That's really what I do. Right. And then after that, literally, like, our biz dev is this year, like, you know, what I just discussed about reaching out to these software companies, we didn't do that this past year, just because, you know, we were still creating processes for these softwares, and to be able to position ourselves, be like, you know, we needed some sort of track record, be like, okay, we've been serving this client for a year, and this is the software we've been using for them. So now we're going to approach software companies. So this year is pretty much, you know, we have, I think, 5 to 7 softwares that we already learned thoroughly, right? And from there, now we're just going to approach these software companies and see if we could partner up with one of them.
So you've been able to get to this side without doing that yet. So that represents an awesome, you know, future growth. Okay, so now I'm going to get a bit more into exciting questions. The first is around how much revenue are you doing now monthly?
So instead of giving you a full amount, I'll tell you one client last month did 45,000 minutes. One client.
Wow.
Right, and that's $1 a minute.
$1 a minute, $45,000 client. Well, that's larger than any client Vicky Virtual ever had. And okay, so how about this? Let's say outside of that client even, but I don't know, you can include the client if you want, but in general, what is the typical average size client for you? Because I know it's larger than ours.
Yeah, so our average is between we're positioning ourselves to be average as 1,000 minutes because that's the threshold we want to be at. So we had initial clients that came in the beginning stages that were still doing like 100 to 250 minutes, but I want to say our average is between 750 and 1,000 right now.
Okay, awesome. And God, I was thinking about this and I can't remember now. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So one of the benefits that I didn't even realize, because Vicky Virtual never went 24/7. One of the benefits, and I think that you sort of said you were going to talk about this later. One of the things about serving clients after hours, and I've noticed when we've had these different conversations about potential new clients and you're thinking about how to handle it, there's certain client prospects that come in, and because his company offers 24/7, they'll say, hey, you know what, for now, let's use you for the weekends, or let's use you for after hours, which represents a certain amount of calls and revenue. And then if you guys do a good job with that, then you can cover us, 24/7.
Right.
And so, that what happened with some of your clients?
Yes and no. Some clients, they just want us to handle overflow calls just as a starting period. We're onboarding a client right now, which I can't speak too much about. So they only want us to handle overflow calls for now until they're satisfied with our process. And they're like, well, let's try a 1 month period. And I said, you know what? You don't need a 1 month period to see how we do business. You only need a day. Right. So they were like, fair enough. But, so I was like, I understand these are your clients. So we'll do the 1 month. And then from there, they want us to handle all their calls. So it's one of those things that it's the trust factor, right? It goes back to the trust factor. It goes back to your credibility. It goes back to how you position your company or you position your brand in the Internet of Things, right? So, people talk, right? So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. And frankly, because you've been able to build out such a strong foundation, strong processes, that your team behind you are going to hold up their end. So you can be a lot more confident.
I'll tell you one thing to just touch on what you just said. We're positioned to be able to handle 100,000 minutes a month for one client right now. So that's how we positioned ourselves from the get-go. So if somebody was to be like, all right, I have 100,000 minutes, can I handle it? Most of you guys, I shouldn't say most of you guys, most call centers will be like, no, we can't handle it because they're not positioned to handle that. But that's how we positioned it from the get-go. And so right now, if a client comes to be like, can you handle 100,000 minutes? Yes, we most definitely can.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's awesome. I want to sort of circle back a little bit because we're getting some great info from you. And I think this is sort of a masterclass in and of itself. You could charge money for this. But I wanted to ask a little bit about, because I thought it was really interesting how you scheduled out your agents. Could you tell us a bit about, what the typical breakdown of how you schedule them out over the course of 24/7?
Okay, so we changed our pricing model for 2022. I don't know if I told you, Don, but we're changing our pricing model. So we're I didn't tell you.
I can't keep up with you, bro.
No, it's because the only reason we did it is because we're in a position to do so. right? So, when you look at Ruby, they're charging $1,500 for 500 minutes.
And they charge
right?
$3 a minute. Crazy.
Right. So they're in a position to do so, right? And it's interesting enough. I don't want to, downplay other brands. So I'm not going to touch base on what one of their clients had said to me. So I'm not even going to talk about it. But so where was I going with this?
Ruby, you changed your pricing model.
Oh yeah, so we changed the pricing. So initially we were charging a set fee for Monday to Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So now we have created pricing for Monday to Friday. If you want weekends, that's another add-on, and then if you want 24/7, that's another add-on.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, we did, but I don't think we shared. I don't think we shared the pricing on how we went about it. Right. But so how our day starts is we provide either 7 to 7, 8 to 8, or 9 to 9 as your initial Monday to Friday, right? So if you're a client, and that's across all time zones. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So if you're going to take on clients in different time zones, don't try to force them into your pocket. Try to work it to whatever their actual business hours are, right? So you provide a service that's 8 to 8, but then
so you're saying when you tell someone 7 to 7, 8 to 8, or 9 to 9, it doesn't matter where they are, you're Correct. Always offering that. Okay, awesome.
For their time zone, right? So that's one benefit of being 24/7, because then you could cater to these individual companies according to what they need. Right. So you're going to be in business, because you're catering a service to what the client wants, not, try to force them into your mold of how to do business. Right. But I'm not saying do anything and everything for a client, but certain things you need to be able to be flexible, because, you have to think about, as a client, they've built a business, say, 5 years or so, they already have a set schedule. Right. Then you're going to approach this client. Well, okay, but I'm in the East Coast. I can't service you from this time to this time. Now the client's going to be like, well, it's not going to be worth it for me. Right. So you have to there has to be some sort of bend, so to speak. So that's how we did. So our agent breakdown is either 7 to 3:30, 8 to 4:30, or 9 to 5:30 with a half an hour break.
Okay.
Right. And then the overlap starts at 11 o'clock to cover lunch break. So it'll be from 11 to 7:30, 12 to 8:30, and 1 to 9:30. And then the evening shifts will start from 4 to 12:30, 5 to 1:30, and 6 to 2:30. And
so that's 9 different shifts already.
Yeah, and then the midnight shift will start from 11 to 7:30, 12 to 1:30, 12 to 8:30, and then 1 to 9:30.
9:30. Okay. So you're doing 8.5 hour shift. You stagger them over the course of 3 hours, and you have 4 sets of that.
4 sets, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Wow, so that's 12 different shift possibilities for a given agent that's coming into your company. Okay.
So that was really beneficial, because now some agents that come on, they could only do certain hours, right? So we also have part-time agents as well that do a minimum of 3 to 4 hours, that we need to fill in pockets for. So we also have part-time agents.
Okay. And do you ever have any agents that sort of float?
Well, I think it's the part-time agents that flow, right? Like one of the pinch points that we had right now that we're addressing is agents that call in at the last minute, right? That they want, because of the holidays. So we had a couple of agents calling at the last minute. Oh, my family's in town. We can't do this, or we can't do the shift now. Like we weren't positioned to do that because it's never happened to us before.
No.
Right.
So now it's your first full.
Yeah,
season.
Yeah. first year, that's full season, right? Because last Christmas we only had that one client to deal with. So now it's like all of these different shifts and all of these different clients and all these different demands and different personalities that want time off or whatever. So that's what we're addressing right now. So how are we going to have agents on call to come in? Well, one of the solution is to pay them higher, Be like, you'll be on call. If you come in, you'll have an extra dollar, or extra $2 or whatever it may be, right? Because we need that shift covered.
And where are you sourcing your agent from?
You really
no, not sourcing, but like where are they located?
So we have a different model than everybody else.
You should start all of your answers from. We have a different approach.
So Don's model, I took in as much as that. Don was providing. He was a wealth of information, and he still is. But we didn't see initially, just because of our cost point, we couldn't phantom paying out North American fees for agents, just because we shot ourselves in the foot, as I mentioned earlier, by going 24/7. So what we did was we created a hybrid system where everything is on request by the client. So we were very transparent from the get-go. That's one thing, guys, if you are sourcing clients from abroad, don't ever lie to your client. Don't ever, I can't reiterate that. Don't ever lie to your client and tell them they're in North America when they're actually in the Philippines, India, or whatever. Because that's never going to look good on you. Always be transparent.
And everyone can tell.
Yeah, right. So because at that point, you're just disrespecting your client.
Yeah.
So what we did was we did a hybrid model. We have agents in North America. We set up satellite office in Philippines. We have agents in Europe, and then currently we're setting up a satellite office in South Africa.
Now, when you say satellite office, do you mean like you're not actually doing an office?
No, it's not. It's just we just have one particular agent or somebody that works for us that headhunts for agents.
So there's someone that takes ownership of
Correct.
finding people in a particular region.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how we're starting up with South Africa right now. So during our Christmas season, it was busy, so I had to jump on a call for one of our clients to cover break for an agent. So I jumped on the call, and this person just talking to me, right? Like she's an Amazon rep, and then I'm like, this girl has a really strong voice, like really strong presence, right? And I know she wasn't North American. So I asked her, I'm like, where are you located? She's like, South Africa. Because I could tell she was black. She was a black, strong woman, right? So and then her voice presence just overtook me, just because like how she handled the call, right? And I was like, she's South Africa.
One of the beautiful things about this business is that half of what determines a good hire is how good they sound on the phone, and you know that when you talk to,
Right. So what I did was I'm like, what's your email address? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what's your personal email address? So I took her email address from an actual her answering me answering a phone call, because she was calling for somebody from for Amazon, right? And then then I connected with her, and then I said, well, this is who I am. This is what I do. Can you source me somebody like yourself, and I'll pay you a finder's fee. And she started sending me, clients. I mean, she started getting me agents like, within a week.
Nice. Okay.
It's just like, you guys have to be open, right? Like when you're setting up your business, be open, think outside the box, be open to all the possibilities that every call has to offer, right? You don't ever think that you're kind of handling a phone call for a business or for a customer, because you don't know who that person knows, and you don't know how that's going to impact your business later on down the line. It may not be today. It could be, a year from now. For example, our first client, year from now, when they initially started, they were after hours. Now they're 24 hours, right? So it's stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to reiterate something again now. The stuff that Paul's talking about now is from the position of someone that now has been running the company for a year. And so it's sort of easier to spot those opportunities and those things, because you can see all the way through, you can see the entire path as soon as you hear that strong voice from South Africa. But when you're starting off, it might be a lot to handle to try to capture every single opportunity and take advantage. So make sure that when you're starting off, you take it one step at a time. Paul and his partner knew not to do too much at once. They wanted to take one client, intentionally keep it that way, and then master that client. And then they added additional clients, they added additional competency. And now they're in a position after a short year, not a lot of time, that they can take advantage of all kinds of different opportunities. They can, start to take advantage of new avenues of marketing because they built piece by piece and one by one those foundations on all parts of their business. So, again, I really try to make sure that I remind everyone not to try to do everything.
Yeah, it's like you can, but then your service level drops, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a position where you're playing. I tell my agents this all the time. Like, we're not playing with our money. Don't ever play with our clients' money, because that's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
When you start playing with your clients' money and you don't take their money seriously, then that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're taking calls on behalf of clients, when your agents are taking calls, this is their business. Really not that difficult to do a satisfactory job. But when you don't do a good job, this is their business. And, you're in a pretty powerful position to harm their business if you don't do it right. So definitely important to take that seriously. Okay, well, I don't really have, you know what? Okay, I got two more questions for you, and these are two that pretty much ask everybody. One is almost rhetorical. Are you glad that you started this business, and how do you feel today as a call center owner?
Well, it's hard to say whether I'm glad or not. It's more to say with if it aligned with my values. Right. So I don't get into anything if it doesn't align with my values, and if it doesn't align with what I'm trying to be in this space, so to speak. Right. So if I was like, if I was in a business where I felt that I wasn't providing much service, then I probably wouldn't be in it. Right. So the value proposition that you're providing to a client, it's there. This business has it. So it really, it speaks to me, so to speak, right? So that's that part I'm really glad about. The growth potential, it really checked off everything that I wanted in a business, the scalability, sustainability, and in location independence. So right from the get-go, it had everything that I wanted and I was looking for. And now I see it as a business that could be, multiple seven figures in a few years, right? And right, so we just have to be. I have to, me personally as an individual, have to become that person to be able to have conversations with business owners that are doing multiple figures, right? So I cannot be
at least two figures.
At least two figures, right? I cannot, you know what I mean? I cannot be I cannot be a guy who's shopping at Walmart and trying to have a conversation with somebody at Holt Renfrew, right? I'm not trying to diss anybody, but you know what I mean? Like you need to project into your mindset into thinking, okay, what are these guys who are shopping here, or what are these guys that are at this level? What kind of conversations are they having, right? So increase your level of competency in that retrospect, right? Because you can't be, street talking and then having conversations with millionaires. It doesn't work like that, right? So I don't know if you know a little bit about my background, because I used to be part of a bike crew.
Okay.
Right. So I literally dropped my vest. I was in this crew for 10 years.
What type of bike?
Rough Riders.
Really? I was on a CBR 600.
Yeah. So I was the president of Alberta chapter. So nobody.
Look at that guy.
Right. So I dropped it this year, like literally on my visit to Toronto this month, I literally dropped it. Why? Because it was part of my growth, right? It was because I wanted to, if I was going to have these conversations with these business owners, I don't want them, searching for my name and they find a picture of me throwing up gang signs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not going to align with what I'm trying to achieve. So you have to change your perspective. You have to change who you're going to become And this business will force you to do that, because you're going to be credible. You're going to be responsible for all these businesses. So it'll force you into to step out of your comfort zone. It's going to force you into your growth. It's going to force you into an elevated state of mind, right? So that's the benefit I see in starting this business, right? Because it's elevated me internally, as well as it's continuing to elevate me externally. So
yeah, I absolutely love that. And, that's a great answer. What a great answer. Because it's like, a lot of people that are just trying to get into business. When I first wanted to be a business owner, I was like, I pretty much don't care what I do as long as it's legal. I just want to quit my job. You're willing to keep your job and, utilize a business as a vehicle to build a legacy. Which is great. I couldn't handle it. I literally couldn't handle it. But the larger point was, so if there's a bunch of ways to make money, pick the one or go after the one. Your goal should be not to just make money through a business, but to make money with a business that propels you or pushes you towards your goal, your end goal. What type of legacy do you want to leave behind? Not just, can I make a certain amount of money? So, I love that answer. I'm glad that, this type of business has aligned with what your goals are. And so that what a great answer. And it is really nice, being in B2B, one of the beautiful perks is that you're talking to business owners over and over again in different industries. You're gaining, when you serve them in such an intimate way, you're answering calls for their business, you gain relationship with them. And, it's from the context of you serving them sort of like a partner. And as you grow, they'll start to see you as more of a partner than, some service provider that they don't necessarily think much about, because it's such an intimate relationship. So there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of perks in the relationships you gain. Some of my clients are fun. Vicky Virtual client are fun with me to this day, and we forged some great relationships. And, I went on to have a few business partnerships with clients. It's really a crazy thing. So last question for you, then I'll open up the floor. And again, thanks a lot for your time, man. Three sort of, tips for someone that's starting off.
Three sort of tips.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would honestly say is, don't try to grow too fast. Some people have done it, like, for example, Eric, he's done it, but at the same time, he was looking to exit, right? Don't try to grow too fast, because you're just taking on, you're going to miss a lot of steps along the way if you try to grow too fast. If you are trying to grow too fast, try only stick with one niche, right?
And that's what Eric did well.
Yeah. So only stick with one niche. If you're only going to serve lawyers, only stick with lawyers if you're looking to grow fast. Don't try to cross industries and think that you're going to be able to have the same amount of quality of service if you're looking to grow like quickly, right? Because you're going to miss a lot of processes. Like I said, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But if you stick to that one niche, it's the same type of call over and over again, right? So between lawyers or accountants, or if you want to service plumbers or HVAC companies, just stick to that one company and just reach out to all of them, and then take on more business of the same kind. So that way you could grow faster, especially because you'll have all the processes created, right? I didn't approach it, was a mistake initially, but now if I were to do it again, that's what I would do.
Okay. So that's one.
Yeah. Another thing would be in contact with your client on a consistent basis. So we do a monthly checkup call with our clients.
Every single one?
Every single one.
Oh.
To go over, that's something I do personally. I don't let anybody else do it. I do it. Every single one of our clients, we do a monthly checkup call, only to see what our previous month was. Not only that, to see if anything in their business has changed within that month, right? So that we could update the process on our end. We don't want to leave it to our client to call us and be like, oh yeah, we changed this process 2 months later. Right now, we're giving wrong information to their clients for the past 2 months. Don't allow that to happen, right?
Sorry, and it also maybe gives you opportunity to explore new ways to work together.
Yeah, most definitely, right? So that's like if you're going to provide a service or customer service, elevate yourself to that position, all right? So where you're, they'll appreciate it. They'll be like, oh, Paul, like several clients have told me, oh, Paul, like we should be calling you, but thank you for calling us. Right. So that'll stick with them for a very long time, and that'll build that credibility, and they'll be the one to promote your brand and your business to the next person that they see that they're looking for, right? Because you are in regular contact with them. So create some sort of system where you're calling your client on a regular basis, either it be 1 month, 3 months, whatever it is, but create something where you're constantly talking to your client.
And once you have enough clients, you can have somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. But it's something that we said that we were going to continue doing just for our brand. But like I said, right, it's something that it'll help you guys grow. Another thing would be don't downplay on SEO and content marketing. It's very important for your long-term growth. Don't think that, you know what, I'm just going to cold call and cold email for the first year and not do any SEO or content marketing, because now you just wasted a year of accumulated SEO for your brand, right? Yeah. So from the get-go, even if it's $100 a month, pay somebody, outsource it to India, Philippines, wherever that they're doing for $100 a month, and work on your SEO from the jump.
Okay, so that's good. One, don't try to do everything at once. Two, make sure you're proactively engaging with your clients and gathering that feedback, getting a sense of where you're at, and continue to provide great services in that regard. And then three, yeah, it really can't be overstated. Content marketing and SEO is key, is king. It alone generated millions of dollars for Vicky Virtual. It's the single most important thing. It's slower, so most people, and that's an advantage too, because most people don't want to put in that work. But if you put in the work, it's slower, but it's much more fruitful in the long term. Mm-hmm. So thanks a lot, Paul.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna open up the floor now. We'll probably go maybe 15 minutes or so. If for those of you that have questions, and I'm sure there's at least a few, just raise your hand. There should be an option within the software to do that. And then we'll sort of call them in order. Sabina, I'm going to unmute you and let's go ahead with your first question.
Employees that you pay as like where you do.
Could you talk a little bit louder, please?
Oh, can you not hear me? Is that better?
I hear you now.
Okay. How do you pay your employees? Are they deducted like taxes and stuff, or are they subcontractors? Because I was thinking of hiring, but using the agents being their own subcontractors. That way I don't have to deduct. It's so much easier, right, for Revenue Canada?
Right. So all of our agents are subcontractors. We don't have any employees. The only employees we will be hiring, or in the process of hiring, is a manager for the business. So they'll be like management will be the employees. Everybody else will be subcontractors.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if they're subcontractors, you don't have to deduct. And also, honestly, there's payroll companies that handle that pretty well. I'm a huge fan of Gusto. Mm-hmm. I forgot to ask this earlier. This is a personal question for me. Outside of agents, what other positions are within the structure of your company currently?
So right now we have, we just implemented a lot of changes in this past month, just because we're positioning ourselves to be able to grow and to be able to structure accordingly.
Mhm.
So we have agents, we have supervisors per 10 agents,
Okay.
right? And those agents, they're all dedicated to campaigns, right? So that particular supervisor will just handle that campaign, train, quality control, and all of that. Then we have sales team. We just created, we just hired on 2 individuals for sales team. And then we have 2 agents that are underneath me for creating processes.
Okay.
So we have dedicated process creators. And then we'll be hiring a manager here shortly. And
Wait,
after that,
those process creators, are they also taking calls?
yes and no. They are overnighters.
Okay.
So when it's
So you're
when
just
it's
you're just utilizing that low volume.
whatever, right? So but they're great at what they do. They're great at systems. They're great at. We do pay them a little higher, but when it's slow, when they're might as well use them to handle calls. But they're not. Their title isn't agents. They're process creators.
Okay. All right, fantastic. So that's a great way to sort of get a bit more productivity out of someone that had that bandwidth anyway. That's awesome. Okay. Any other questions? CJ asked, do you offer online chat services, or is there a good market for that?
Yes, we do, CJ. We do provide it. Our website, it shows chat support, it shows virtual assistants, it shows BPO process, as well as voice over IP, automated auto receptionist, right? So I'll tell you one thing. Our content marketing from day one, our content marketing, our SEO, and initial cold outreach has always been for virtual receptionist. So I'd lie to you if I told you that yes, there's a great market for it, because we never outreached for
You
chat
haven't
services.
tested it yet.
Right, we haven't tested it, but we do have clients that we do chat service for, right? And that all came through people that are coming to the website, but it's not through Five9. I'm actually in the process of talking to Five9 to have a fully integrated chat support. We use a third-party company called Jivo. It works well for us for the time being. But once we do get more chat support clients, and then we'll incorporate all of that into one platform.
Yeah,
but there is a market for it. Tell you the truth, there is a market for it.
There's definitely a market for it. And Five9, that's an additional implementation fee you're probably gonna have to pay.
Yeah.
So that is something. It is doable. Just so for the group, very doable for an agent to handle calls, and to some extent do chat as well. Chat is not very difficult. It doesn't have the same response speed as a call. Like if someone asks you a question on the phone, you have to respond to them immediately. When it's chat, you got 20 to 30 seconds while still keeping your chat conversations happy. And it's also the type of thing that you can't tell an accent on chat, really. So you can have someone that might not sound great on the phone. So the wages might not be the same because of that, unfortunately, but they're great on chat. They've got great written skills. So you're able to utilize them maybe exclusively for that. So there's definitely room.
Yeah, we don't have exclusive chat support right now, just because we don't have enough clients for it. But one of the reasons why we want to go with the Five9 incorporated is that if a chat comes in through Five9, it won't allow that agent to answer a phone call, and vice versa, right? So that's the benefit of it. With our third-party platform, if the agent's answering a phone call and then they have a chat support, then they have to stop, put themselves away on Five9 and then answer the chat and then come back, kind of deal.
Okay. And Lauren is one of our veterans as well. She said there's a market, depends on where and if you are willing to handle that to work. So yeah, that's awesome. Hey Sabina, so you have another question? Let's hear it.
It's about training, actually. I'm still trying to put together in my head how this all looks. So I was wondering if it would be a good idea to actually get hired on to a call center to get myself familiarized. Does that make sense?
What are you trying to familiarize yourself with?
Well, the whole call center stuff. What do you do? What does it look like to be an agent in a call
Right.
center?
Honestly, the easiest way, Paul, you answer that first.
It's I would say, as a business owner, if you're trying to be a business owner, just jump into it, learn as you go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do have enough support within the tribe to help you along the way. You could always reach out to me. You could always reach out to Eric. You could always reach out to Andy, Maurice, Lauren. Everybody's willing to help. If you are going the 5-9 route, we created a 5-9 room on Facebook just to help you set up with 5-9.
That's a
so you don't have
separate group.
That's a separate group, so you don't have to pay that extra fee to 5-9. So there is that support if you need, right? But to be able to, I find it. I'm not trying to put you down by any means, but understand that if you're going to, put yourself in a position to work for somebody, now you're just prolonging the process. So don't do that. Just jump in. Start small. Get all the support that you want from the tribe. Everybody's willing to help you, and then just go from there.
Yeah, honestly, it's not very difficult to serve one client, right? Or a few, smaller clients. And if you're taking calls yourself for your own company, then one, you're growing your company, and two, you're forced to learn the things you need to learn as an agent. And frankly, the way a given company that you might work for might do things might not align with how you want to run your own business. And so I recommend the best way to learn the processes of an agent is to be an agent within your own company.
Yeah, that's true.
Then learn. Yeah.
Or another option might be to hire somebody and pay them a little bit more that's already has previous experience working for a call center, right? Tap into their network, tap into their mindset of how they do things at whatever firm that they worked at, right? So that's another thing. There's so many people that you could hire that are ex call center agents.
No. But at the end of the day, technically, it's not that difficult to serve a client. There's a lot of businesses, especially in the service industry, where it's just more complicated and difficult to serve a client. End of the day, most of what we're doing is just answering the phone, taking messages, providing information, accurate information, and getting the phone etiquette right. So it's not rocket science. When it comes from getting the 95% right to 99% right, that's where the training really comes in. That's where processes come in. And Paul, it amazes me that you're at a 0% churn. That is a testament. Congratulations. Okay, so Mark asked, with a software company, are you wanting to be a white label for them? What do you mean by a software company? With a software company? Mark, do you want to unmute yourself? Or?
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey.
Excellent, Mark.
My question was, you were thinking about, or you're entertaining working with software companies. So would you be a separate entity, or would you be a white label product for them?
No. What I meant, Mark, was working with software companies is partnering up in the sense of providing call center support for their clients, right? Because we're already learning the software to serve one of their clients. So that way, we already know the system. We're going to approach them and be like, well, look, we have a client of yours that's using your software. Can we partner up with you so that you could tell your current clients that, hey, there's a call center support that you guys could tap into if you're interested in outsourcing your support.
Great. Thank you, Paul.
Welcome.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of situations where when you're serving client, it will sort of come up either organically or, maybe you can get them to send out an email blast or something, maybe incentivize them for it. There's different approaches you can take. So great question, Mark. Any other question from anyone? Sabina, do you still have another question?
Hands still up.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I'm wondering if a lot of your clients are around Edmonton, or are they from all over? And then,
I have 0 clients in Edmonton.
oh, okay. So basically it's all companies from everywhere then.
Yeah, so we have Texas, we have Florida, we have Detroit, Toronto, Vancouver. Where else?
Anyone outside of North America?
Yeah, we have a client in Denmark.
Nice.
Yeah, and then yeah, so we're not really locked in geographically.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago, and out of thousands of clients, we had maybe 3 in Chicago.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and could you give me an example of a company that would do answer phones after midnight? Like you said, you have a midnight shift. So what kind of businesses would be answering then?
Injury attorneys.
Injury attorneys, property management companies, HVAC companies, plumbing companies, security companies, security, for example, like security monitoring, as well as engineering companies who that manage floods, power outages, stuff like that. Yeah, there's so many.
Even like there's certain there's certain people that just want to capture everything. They don't want to leave it up to chance in terms of someone leaving a voicemail overnight and then maybe calling one of their competitors in the morning. We had someone, he wasn't a student, he's a friend of mine that decided to start a company well before even while I had my company. And he was serving massage therapists exclusively. And he ended up having to go 24/7 because so many of the massage therapists were like, can you just take calls overnight so I get those appointments? So there's a host of industries that you can't really tap into if you're not 24/7, but you certainly can if you are. But and then there's companies within industries that might mostly be regular hours, but some of them individually might want to go 24/7. And then the last thing is it gives you a lot of opportunity to white label. For instance, there might be, some type of co-working space that want to provide receptionist support for their co-working space businesses. And, they'll usually be 24/7.
So I'll tell you a story on that. So we had an inbound lead from a co-working space, and they were at the time working with another bigger firm. I forget what their name was, and then they switched over. Sorry.
Nothing.
They switched over because they didn't like their processes. They were with them for about 10 years. They contacted us, and they also contacted AnswerNet. So if you know about AnswerNet is pretty big in the space. Well over 500 agents. So they they decided to go with AnswerNet just because they're very well established. So they went to AnswerNet for about a month. AnswerNet said, we don't want to take on this. We don't want to continue servicing you because your processes are too difficult. We want to simplify our clients. So they came back to us. They're like, Paul, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, we could do it. Because it required them to learn a third-party software. So we learned the software. They've been with us for a few months, and that client generates between 8,000 and 10,000 minutes a month. So yeah, the possibilities there. And that was an inbound lead.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's an example, Sabrina, of a company that is, we want 24/7. And it's also an example of a company that if they have enough volume, it's worth learning the third-party software.
Yeah.
So good questions. Let's do maybe 2 more questions if anyone has any, and then we'll wrap this up.
I'm pretty transparent, guys, so you guys could ask me about anything. It doesn't.
And there's no dumb questions. I know we're recording, and the question will live on forever, but there are no dumb questions. So whatever you got. I know George Orwell has a question. Okay. Nyla, I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. She just
That's
raised her
okay.
hand.
That's okay.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. Welcome.
Hi, Paul, and thank you
Hi, Nyla.
so much. So my question was about your, and you might have, I got on about 15 minutes late, so you may have mentioned it already, but I was curious about your, the clientele that you service the most, if there is a need, if that makes sense.
A niche.
Yeah.
I won't tell you my main niche, but I'll tell you my
Okay.
secondary niche.
Okay.
Secondary niche is home services. Home services, you can't lose with home services. If you just stick with home services and just service home services alone, you'll succeed, because there's so many providers, like cleaning companies, HVAC companies, plumbing companies, painters, window cleaners.
You never run out of them.
You never run out of home services, right? So if you just specialize in home services, and within the home services space, there are a lot of companies that want 24 hours, right? Plumbers, property management companies, there's so many that want 24 hours. So you could make money just sticking to home services.
Any home services company, any company that someone might call because they have an issue at 3 a.m. and they need someone right the F now, they're going to get 24/7 service.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Good question.
And then I'll touch base on what's being asked about BPO. So we're in the process of setting up our office in either, this is the 23rd, 2022 plan, either in the Philippines or Costa Rica for our BPO sector. So the BPO sector is pretty much, as Don mentioned, business process outsourcing. So where clients outsource some of their back-end work to dedicated number of agents. And that could be anywhere from, so our threshold right now is minimum 5 agents. So anywhere from 5 agents, that could be, 25, 50, 100 agents, right? We're not going to get those projects because, they usually go for somebody very well established, but it's a way to tap into a market that's outside of the virtual receptionist space, call center space, whereas you're taking on clients just to do data entry or correcting certain documents and all of that. So right now we're in talks with a government agency out of Canada. One of the stipulations is the data cannot leave Canada. So we have to find data centers within Canada to store them. So that is the only stipulation. So once we do finalize it and we do get the contract, it'll probably be minimum 5 agents to start, and then they'll eventually start increasing, sending us over some of the other processes.
Fantastic. CJ just asked, is 5.9 the main startup cost, or what else? Well, talk about your costs. Yeah.
Our cost initially was 5.9, and then our agents, right? Our agents, since we went 24/7 right off the hop, our wages were substantially higher, just because to be able to handle all coverage for all those hours, as including the weekend. So
plus there was decent volume from that first client, so you had to hire more than.
right? So I was willing to eat up the cost for the first few months because I knew that we were in the process of creating our foundation, so I didn't mind that. But your initial cost would be your wages and 5/9.
Did that answer your question, Caesar? Another cost are small, like your website and